You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik, a show to help professional moms in survival mode to take hold of their lives and thrive. If you're ready to take powerful action to create your best life, then this is the show for you. I'm your host, Dr. Prianca Naik, board-certified internal medicine physician and certified life coach. Now let's get to it and dive in. You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, episode number 26. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for today's podcast. So I want to talk a little bit about the work I do. My program helps professional moms with a seemingly perfect life who are truly silently suffering on the inside. They feel alone. And my program not only lets them know that they're not, but also they can reclaim their confidence and power to truly have the life that they want, to love their life, even when that feels impossible. I was actually on call this past weekend, which means that I'm pretty busy and I see a lot of patients. And of course, this can be overwhelming. Now, I was walking through my own process, the way I coach myself, observing what I did and how I was going about managing my mind to really make the overwhelm not overtake me. And I was observing what I did to keep myself grounded. So the first step I noticed in decreasing stress and suffering is to accept any given state. What I've seen is, of course, I manage my mind and I really do love my life no matter what is going on, no matter how hard things can get or things might be. I definitely enjoy my life, multiple moments every single day. Even when I'm in a bad mood, I might enjoy dressing my baby girl, my daughter, in the morning, and I'm just so grateful to have fun playing dress up with her. That's something I dreamt of since I was a little girl. So yes, I take in those moments, I enjoy them, and I'm so grateful for what I have. But that is not to say that I don't have bad days. It's also not to say that I don't express negative emotion or I don't cry, because there have been times where I cry. Sometimes I've cried a lot. And if I'm feeling like I'm going through a particularly tough time, I will ask myself, what's going wrong? What can I fix? Because I tend to be a healer and a fixer. That's, of course, why I became a doctor and went into medicine. That's also why I went into life coaching. Recently, I replied, I allow myself to feel the feelings. Then I ask myself, what is going wrong? And then I come up with a plan or solution. Just background / a caveat, I am a solutions-oriented person. And also, one of my mentors has always taught me to not be a complainer, because that really doesn't help anything, but to also just come up with solutions. And that is really how I've learned to be wired. It is not a bad thing. I'm good with it. But what does come along with this is the idea that something is wrong when I don't have it perfectly together 100% of the time. I recently actually had this realization. I too have to check myself in following my own processes because I'm not perfect. I think about my podcast episode on perfectionism early on in this podcast and realize I have to be reminded to be imperfect, that to be human is to err, and to really give myself grace, as I talked about on last week's episode. So in assuming that something had gone wrong because I'm not handling something exactly perfect or exactly as I should be, I learned that sometimes you just get overwhelmed. Sometimes there's only so much a person can take, and that's totally okay. I think the standard that we all hold ourselves to is what really keeps us unhappy, because we expect something from ourselves, and when we don't deliver, we feel disappointed in ourselves. But really, let's work on embracing our humanity. The imperfect is what makes us human, and that's really wonderful. So nothing has gone wrong, and I'm going to get into that in a minute or so. So I'm not perfect, right? Nor will I ever be. And I acknowledge that life is good, life is bad. Of course, there will be challenging times, right? That's just part of the course. Hence, there are going to be times when perhaps there are just too many challenges at once, or we might feel more overwhelmed than usual. And because I have my tools for that, of course, recently with some major transitions going on in my life, including transitioning away from a nanny, sending my baby to daycare, which I've never done full time before, and other things on top of that, I realized I was dealing perhaps with more than I had really ever dealt with before. And so I've been juggling even more balls in the air than usual. I had to really dig deep, to do some deep personal work and reflect on how I was going to handle this in order to not let this sense of overwhelm overcome me, really to thrive, prevail, and continue to enjoy my life. Here's what I found, which I'm going to share with you. Grab a pen and paper if you want to take notes, because this stuff is really important to keep in mind when you're having a hard time. So when things get really rough, shit hits the fan, know that it is not permanent. The only thing constant in life is change, which you probably already know. And know that whatever roughness is happening, maybe that's taking you exactly where you need to go. I know I can certainly reflect back on times in life when things were difficult, but the challenging times most certainly laid the groundwork for my next step. 2, nothing has gone wrong. I am doing my best, and that is totally enough. Totally in all caps, okay? Seriously, I don't have to tackle every single problem at once. Problems and challenges come in various shapes, sizes, and packages, also varying degrees of complexity. Therefore, some challenges we really can face head on, quickly. For example, a messy house, for example, the solution would be to hire a cleaning person or cleaning company, crew, whatever. Extremely simple, easy to do in a snap. Perhaps a little bit of legwork to hire, but overall, relatively simple. However, there are larger, bigger problems in life, like challenging relationships or major decisions. Let's say to leave a toxic work environment, and the list goes on. That, of course, requires more mental energy, and we need to remember and acknowledge that. So, in the case of solving larger problems, which require more energy, we really must conserve our energy, our brain space and energy, which I talk about all the time. But particularly here in this situation, we must cultivate patience. Trust yourself. This is something that we work on inside of my coaching program, but essentially, once you trust yourself, you know that the answer will come to you. It really will. Often, you simply just need time and space. You will figure out the answer. Everything is figure outable. And I love this one. And I've definitely mentioned this before. This is a mantra I live by. I know everything's figure outable. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer than maybe we bargained for. So if we learn to kind of sit with it, give ourselves time and space, we cultivate patience, and this patience, and sense of ease makes our life experience more enjoyable instead of panicking, pushing ourselves to no end, because we know, you know what I'm saying, as a working mom, as a mom in a male-dominated field, you push, you're so strong. And sometimes we just have to do the opposite of that. We need to sit back. And by allowing ourselves to be comfortable with that, maybe comfortable with the discomfort, we truly can be in a better place. And when you are completely exhausted, make sure you're cautious, mindful, careful of giving your energy away to anyone or anything who may want to take it. Guard your energy with like a padlock, okay? Refrain from activities that deplete your energy. Refrain from people pleasing, because you really have to take care of yourself more than ever during these challenging times. Be super picky about what you do when you're going through a big challenge or you're really super overwhelmed. For example, don't take on more than you have to during these times. Don't put unnecessary things on your to-do list, doing favors for people if you're already overextended and feeling like you're at wit's end. Don't do anything you don't want to do, including don't hang out with anyone you don't want to hang out with. Now, this seems obvious and fairly straightforward, and yet somehow many of us end up spending our time in ways we just don't want to. Definitely, you shouldn't be doing this in general, but do not be doing this when you feel like you're completely overwhelmed. And finally, be you unabashedly. Be your authentic self. Because not only is it fucking beautiful, but it also does not require any added work. Make life easier for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's going to help you. And if you want to learn more about my process, which helps professional moms with the seemingly perfect life who are silently suffering on the inside to reclaim their confidence and power, to love their lives even when they feel it's impossible, apply to work with me, book a call, www.priancanaikmdcoaching.as.me, link in the show notes, or check out my free masterclass on 4 methods to love your life. And also, finally, please share this podcast with anyone that you think would benefit from it or enjoy it. Give me a rating on iTunes and a review if you really like what you hear so that more people can listen. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik. If you are ready to get unstuck and out of survival mode to live your best life, I want to invite you to book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. To get started, visit priancanaikmdcoaching.as.me. Link in the show notes.